session. Today, we have Isabella from Love Bonito. She will be presenting a topic called how to lower your CAC and also increase your CLTV, which is basically what we already learned and discussed also during the first week of digital marketing program here in RevoU. So the schedule for tonight is first, Isabella will present her presentation, and then we will also have a Q&A session. The system for the Q&A session will be just like our usual express setting session. If you have any questions, please go to slido.com and then type in RevoU so that you can access this page. You can directly write your questions here. And if you feel like you really want to also hear each other questions, kalian bisa langsung klik thumbs up here supaya pertanyaannya bisa langsung naik ke atas. Terus second is if you want to ask your questions directly, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom. And if, let's say, Isabella wants to ask questions to all of you guys, you can write your answers in the Zoom chat box, and then I will basically read it to you. All right, so we already have Isabella here with us. Hi, Isabella.
So, hi everybody. Hi, everyone.
So before we start tonight's presentation, maybe Mateo, you would like to introduce Isabella to the crowd?
Sure. Yeah. Very briefly. I'll let her introduce later herself and the whole journey of her career. So just to share. So I got to know Isabella, I think 6 years. I was looking 6 years and a half ago. She was still
probably very long.
Last year student, I think, right? So I had the chance to work with her for just a few months in a complete different non-related marketing field, actually. So but it was very clear that the big, great and big things were awaiting for her. So we reconnected, recently, right? And I'm super happy to see, how she has, as she has grown in her career now in a super top, super top job. I mentioned to all our students to check out, your writing. I know you just started, right, to write on Medium, but
yes.
You have, I think you have, and you will have already an audience because it's pretty nice, pretty great stuff. So yeah, so super happy to have you here, and I'll leave the mic to you and to better introduce yourself. So thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matteo, for the intro. So let me share my screen to begin with. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, it's the right slides, right?
Yeah, right.
Not sharing random weird stuff. Okay. So thank you so much, Matteo, for the intro. I think I also got connected with you recently, and I'm super grateful to given this chance to, I guess, talk a little bit about how I am as a digital marketer, and also what do I do, what we've done, what are the failures we have done, and also what are the success we have done today as well. So I think before I start, sort of like an official introduction of myself. So I'm actually originally from China. So I've been in Singapore for, I think now more than a decade. It's really very long. I've been spending my time in digital marketing for almost 6 years to date. So my experience in digital marketing actually covers from actually all spectrum of digital marketing, which I think you will see a little bit more later. I will share myself. I think my strongest strengths will be in the performance marketing and CRM side of things. That's what we will be going through a bit more as a case study today. Yeah, so without further ado, I'll just start. Yeah, so I think generally, so just want to start with something which is a bit more casual. Yeah, so a fun fact about myself is that I actually graduated from university with an engineering degree. So I didn't really have any marketing background. So the time that Matteo mentioned that we briefly worked with was my like first-hand, like on-hand, I guess, hands-on marketing experience. So this, but I guess why did I actually chose into go into marketing is because I think as a kid, I have always been interested in marketing. I think marketing is something, yes, you need to get systematic training, but meanwhile, it's also something that you actually, as a consumer, especially if you're in a B2C space, you should be observing what is happening around you. Let's say today, what kind of campaign Apple is running, why this brand that you always buy from that attracts you, what is the messaging that speaks to you, how did they reach out to you, or even how did they, I guess, steering your decision making to brand A versus brand B if you're considering both. So in a sense, marketing is actually everywhere in our life. So to me, that was, I guess, that's why I took the step to actually try marketing, even though I don't have a marketing degree. But I think what engineering has taught me will be really the systematic and structural thinking when it comes to digital marketing. I think unavoidably, I think this week you guys also probably understand like the matrix like CAC, LTV, and things like that. Those all require a bit of data, which engineering actually sets a very good foundation of how you move towards that field. Yeah, so if you, I think also just want to understand, like if anyone in the audience actually wants to do marketing, but you have never had a marketing degree or you have never done any systematic marketing learning until now, probably can comment there so that I also know that if we have similar experience. And also don't be afraid to ask me anything on this, like for example, how did I go into marketing and etc. I'll be more than happy to take your question afterwards as well. Yeah.
And to add on that, just sorry to interrupt, just a second. So to add on that, actually, Isabella, we had quite a lot of, I mean, we do have quite a lot of instruction and also of guest lecture that actually have a very, very similar background as yours. So with degree in either, you know, engineering or mathematics and advanced mathematics. So we had the head of performance marketing for Shopee Indonesia, I think 1 month ago, who works for Shopee in Singapore, but is Indonesia, he also graduated, I think, from NUS from like mathematics. Our CRM instructor is also, I think, has some engineering and mathematics background. So it's actually quite, it's much more common than people would think.
Yeah, that's great to know, like-minded people do the same thing. Yeah. So with that being said, right, I think most of the marketing stuff, I guess, along the way when I started my career, I actually taught myself by reading a lot. If you're interested, I can share with you guys the reading list after this, but I would say to be able to stay up to date on digital marketing, the most important thing is really reading, because things actually change very fast. If you have a bit of idea of how Google does its like search ranking or Facebook does its feed delivery of the content, you will know things are ever changing. There is definitely no one plan suits all kind of situation anymore. So reading is very, very important. I think no matter now or in future, when you really start your career, you should really set aside some time to read every day. Yeah, so that would be my take on that. So here is also a list of things I've done. I think did quite extensively campaigns in my Zalora days, CRM with my Sephora experience, and at Love Bonito currently also did a lot of PR influencer as well as performance marketing. So that's where I think with the combination of PR influencer and performance marketing, that's how we grow, I guess, our international e-commerce sales by 800% in the last 2 years. So that's sort of like the highlight of my project so far. Then personally, I quite like this term called growth strategist. So it kind of gives you a flavor of you are always optimized for growth related stuff. No matter it's top line revenue or it's new customer acquisition, as well as retention, as long as it's an opportunity, and be super opportunistic about how you are doing things. And for me, the part that fascinates me the most is really how do you leverage on data to make the right decision. And when it comes to data, right, I think a lot of people initially, if you're not doing extensive data crunching, you might be very scared when you receive, let's say, a marketing report. There's like tons of channel budgets, or even like Google Analytics data tell you bounce rate, page session, etc. But I think when it comes to data, from my personal experience, what works for me the most is really ask yourself questions. So when you see a spreadsheet in front of you, you don't try to understand the data line by line. Instead, you actually ask yourself, like, what do you want to find out from this? What's the question I'm trying to solve? Is it I want to understand what is my CAC in the past 6 months? Has it been going up? Has it been going down? Has it been more efficient? Is it that I have a spike in month A that resulted in my better CAC in month B? So all these questions actually will guide you to go into data analysis, because I think if you just look at the data, it's very easy to get drained into the data, then which you actually lost track of what you want to find out initially. And I think with as much passion as I have in data, there's another side of marketing I think we should never forget is on the creativity side of things, which is done via, I guess, your experience, your rating, and as a consumer, how you observe in terms of market. Because a lot of things we will not have data if we have never done it before, especially I think for small business, when you just start with your own business, there is no way that you have data. Data will be, I guess, like a luxury item. So it's also very important, you know, when to jump out of data and just try something and see how it goes in a very good iteration. So with that said, I guess the last thing I just want to emphasize, and often, right, for small, medium businesses, it's not like you are a unicorn, you have a lot of money to spend on marketing. So efficiency is super important when you want to scale. Because it's not like everybody can spend like $1 million a month. So you really need to figure out what's the right way to spend, when is the right way to spend. If there are things that we can do without spending anything, that's probably the best. I think everybody likes discount. I mean, when you do marketing, it's the same thing. You want to make sure that you spend the least, but you are opt for the most. Yeah, so I think this is like a quick overview, I think, of my reflections and some fun facts about myself. I mean, outside of marketing, I actually do a bit of yoga, and I mean, especially handstand. So if anybody does yoga or handstand, can let me know as well. Yeah, because I think when you are very stressed, you need to have some physical activities going on to clear your mind. I think that's actually super, super important for people who actually work in high-paced startups. Yeah, so then I think Matteo has already shared, I think, as a growth team at Love Bonito, we start to write a bit more about how we do things. It's not to say this is really the right way to do things. We really just want to exchange ideas with like-minded people like you, and also want to get your view on, okay, if this is how we do it, like, what do you think? And are you doing something in a different way? So there will be more articles to come. So that's why I linked here for everybody to have a look and give me your feedback. Yeah, so I will be moving on to share with you a case study that we've done recently at Love Bonito, as well as how we have been, I guess, reduce our CAC spends, and eventually that will result in further, I guess, improvements on LTV. And I will try to keep this quite snappy, so actually you have more questions. I mean, you have more time to ask me questions towards the end. I would like to keep it also quite interactive instead of like I'm going through a lot of concepts. So no matter I've talked about it or didn't talk about it, if you just want to understand how we do things, just feel free to shoot your question over.
And maybe Isabella, can I ask you to just share a few words about basically about Love Bonito, so to make sure that everyone knows, you know, what's the journey of the brand, right? So it didn't start as a typical e-commerce. So if you can share just a few words, so to give enough context to everyone.
Yeah, sure. So Love Bonito is basically a direct to consumer retail fashion brand. So LB, so we call it in short LB. So LB started actually quite long ago, like 10 years ago, when there was absolutely no e-commerce. At the time, people transact via blog shops. Not sure if you were there in that age, but things were pretty manual. When you want to order something from e-commerce, there's no such thing called Shopee and etc. You basically write in email and then they will process your order. So it has come to a long way till today that you have an e-commerce platform, as well as we also have a number of retail stores in Singapore and Malaysia and also Indonesia. So it's basically we're a vertically integrated fashion brand. That means we do our design in-house, we manufacture and we sell it to customers. Internationally, we ship to around 20 plus countries in this Southeast region and also North America. So that's quite a wide range of where we are today. And to also give a bit of idea what I do at Love Bonito, basically I run the performance marketing team at Love Bonito, where we actually act as the center of excellence to do performance marketing for all the markets we ship to, as well as the other part will be doing a bit more product side. So it's more of how do you optimize your website funnel and how do we get better conversion rates. Yeah, so hope that gives you an idea of, how us evolve. Essentially, we're a B2C e-commerce business model for today's case study's sake. Yeah. Okay, so I think before I begin, just want to share with you guys a bit more on the evolution of marketing channels. I think, so first of all, right, on the marketing channel adoption, right, when we look back 10, 15 years ago, the marketing channel adoption was linear, right? So first of all, I guess in the early 2000s, you have email as the pure channel, which everybody was very obsessed about it. Then eventually you have a lot of e-commerce as well as website related stuff going on in the late 2000s. And then eventually we have a boost in advertising. So this is the era where advertising also has been around for quite a while. And initially when advertising just came about, advertising was extremely cheap comparing to a traditional marketing, which is your typical, I guess, when you buy ads on the TV station or when you buy offline billboards, let's say on the highway, when you drive past. I mean, in Indonesia, actually, you see a lot of those offline billboards. So last time, this versus those billboards buys were extremely cheap. But I think today, with so many brands and retailers or whoever is leveraging on advertising online, it has become super, super expensive. That's why when you plan your spends, when you do your customer acquisition, when it comes to CAC, you have to be very cautious about why you are spending and who are you acquiring. And also, I think on the other front, I think generally in the organization, I think as much as you are aware, I think you will see a lot of teams working silo. Especially in bigger organizations, you have your marketing team, CRM team who does more customer data insights, and product team. Why they work in silo? Because most of the time the KPIs weren't really aligned. So marketing probably is in charge of upper funnel lead generation or customer acquisition, whereas CRM team in charge of, I guess, pushing the customer LTV and make sure people are coming back and buying more stuff. Whereas product team only care about the website conversion rate. So with that setup, actually no one really talk to each other because whatever you do, you don't really care about the rest. But does everybody can work in silo? No, because if marketing team is bringing a traffic that without a very good quality means today, let's say I try to bring to Love Bonito website, because I mean at the moment, because we only sell female fashion, I try to bring a lot of male traffic without filtering, then obviously it's not going to convert. Then the website will have a conversion rate issue. And if marketing perspective, I just really, really want new customers, that I will just be spending a lot during sale, because on sale, it's just a lot easier to acquire customers. But then you will give CRM team a very big issue because all the customer quality might not be the best. They are here for bargain hunter for the sale. After the sale with the full price item, you probably don't get them to convert anymore. So that's like a very typical, I guess, debate and argument between marketing, CRM, and product. Then on the last part, you actually optimize within the channel most of the time as the marketer. So if I am the one running, let's say EDM, I actually always send out time tests within the EDM. I try to improve my open rate and CTR, that's click to open rate. And then while I'm doing performance marketing, I always test, I guess, different type of segment. Or when I run Facebook, I want to test interest group A, let's say people like fashion, or interest group B, people follow my competitor brands. But then in the email, they are doing different type of segmentation. So there's like really no link. That's how I think marketing has been running for really long. And that's why I think when you look at CAC, especially when it comes to acquisition, you will eventually realize actually people has been spending money on different parts of the channel, but actually the story doesn't really connect. And after a while, you actually lost track to understand like how much actually we have spent for CAC. And typically at the end of the day, you'll realize it's actually super expensive to acquire a customer. So with this being said, it might lead to a question that you probably potentially will ask. So if we are saying, okay, channel, we shouldn't work in silo, we should look at across channel. So is channel integration the next growth drive? I think definitely it is. Because I think as a marketer, you don't think about channel in silo. Email, they can kind of work with performance marketing. You can work with your on-site. But I think this is not really like a sexy concept that only appear today. I'm sure if you read around on the internet, or a lot of people might have been sharing with you, it is something a lot of companies trying to do it. And people have different adaptation of their interpretation of this. So today, what we're going to share is just like one type of adaptation of what we're doing. And also, I think just also disclaimers as well. I think channel integration is definitely super critical when you want to achieve a more efficient marketing setup, but it's not the magic pill to everything. You still need to make sure you test every part of your channel, understand your objective, you know who is your audience, and what kind of messaging work for them before you proceed. And after you proceed, actually, you will encounter a lot of issues, for example, like scalability. When you run so many channels together, how do you manage the workload, as well as how do you measure what is really attributing to the success? So those are the things we were trying to resolve with our setup. Yeah. So the journey I wanted to share today will be how did we do acquisition. So this is in the past how we have been running acquisition. Just to give a quick, I guess, walkthrough of this. So typically when we do acquisition, we have 3 parts of the funnel. That's how we try to structure them into 3 parts. So every part has to set a different type of objective. So you don't really judge, I guess, part of the funnel by one matrix, so then you realize it doesn't really work. So why am I saying so? So for example, prospecting. What prospecting? This is like a very upper funnel activity. So for prospecting, the KPI we will be measured is really traffic and the quality of traffic. The things we'll be looking at will be literally number of sessions and bounce rate. Bounce rate here is really just to validate if the traffic I am getting in is good or bad. If let's say I'm getting traffic, but I'm only getting like 95% of the bounce rate, which means 95% of, let's say I'm getting 100 sessions and 95 of them actually bounce off on the first page I land them to, is almost like I'm not getting any traffic. And then with that, you will end up in your conversion rate with a super poor conversion rate. So on the prospecting, that's the thing we measure. And then once we lead people to the traffic, we measure this thing called lead generation. Basically means how many leads we will get after people come to the site. Usually to do that, you will serve up a pop-up on the website to ask people, hi, welcome to Love Bonito, or welcome to XYZ. Here is your 10% off, or here is your free shipping on your first order. Would you like to sign up the newsletter with us? So that's when the person actually sign up for a newsletter, that's called a lead. And when you take number of lead you get versus number of traffic you get on the site, you actually get the lead basically your lead generation rate. Typically this ranges, I think this number actually is super different from company to company and business to business. So I wouldn't give a benchmark here, but I think if you go online, you will see what's like a good benchmark for the type of business you are in. And then eventually, once you sign up for lead generation, you will actually receive a welcome offer of your personalized first order incentive. And then there will be a small percentage of people who will convert. So that's why at this part of the funnel, we will start to measure the real conversion rate, means people really make an order with us. The reason why I'm saying that when it comes to prospecting, you shouldn't be thinking too much on the conversion rate is because if you look at this, the nature of the customer journey is just not going to be a super short journey. People might be coming to your website at day one. They sign up on lead gen on day one, but they receive email on day one, but they probably will be actually considering and look around for another 3 to 5 days, and eventually they might convert. When you measure your conversion rate here, you will just realize your conversion rate is very, very bad, and you actually don't really know what to optimize because you are looking into too much details of how to optimize. So here, that's why I think it's super important that you set the right matrix at the right time. It's just like when you do marketing, you want to serve the right message to the right audience. Same logic apply here. You want to set the right matrix for yourself. Don't make your life super struggling when it's here. You already want people to convert. You have to be patient. Yeah, the conversion rate will come. So, and then sometimes we will follow up with a reminder. Let's say if a person has not convert for more than 5 days, you will send them a reminder to say, hi, your offer expires in 15 days. Would you like to use it? So this will be how we do it in the past, and it's 100% manual. So at each level, all these are sent out after you do some manual query, and then you send out people the thing. Then after last year, we started to doing a bit of a revamp on our acquisition journey. So same thing, we still get traffic from all the ad channels, which means we are actively running your Facebook ads, Google ads, or any display based on what kind of campaign we're running. And of course, SEO traffic, social media traffic, because we also have a very big following on Instagram. These are all good traffic to bring to the site. And then once we actually send out the welcome offer, in the past, we only leverage on reminder to actually improve conversion rate. But what we realize is that not everybody will read their email, as well as email is a very confined channel. If I don't really check my email, that's about it. Like, that's all I can reach out to you. So that's why we started to running retargeting on people who have received a welcome offer, but they actually didn't really convert via advertising channel like Facebook. And also with this sort of advertising, we are also concurrently running a bit of A/B testing on copy and creative. Just a simple example, you might think, yeah, it's very straightforward. It's just a welcome offer, right? The ad copy literally goes like, here is your 10% off on your first order. But with that copy, actually, you can come up with a lot of alternatives to test. For example, in some markets, people care a lot about if you have free shipping. So if you talk about, if you combine your website, I guess, service offering, for example, like free shipping, but with that 10% offer, then people's the perceived value from the customer will be a lot higher just other than the 10%. So the copy will go like, here is your 10% off with free shipping on your first order. So when you test those two things, the difference in your click-through rate on ad is actually extremely different. You can go as high as 2x higher than the one without free shipping on some markets. And then eventually you will know your conversion rate also improved with that kind of triggering down effect. And also things I really like A/B testing. So I think another thing we've also tested out is really about creative. You have to also think of a way, I think, especially for fashion or any consumer brand, first of all, you actually have a lot of assets. So you should really make use of those things. So for example, in a market like Singapore versus market like Indonesia, the creative, I guess the type of image people like is a bit different. So it's very easy to assume, okay, I think this hero image will work for Indonesia, but no, in reality, we actually find out a lot of cases that what we assume is versus what we test is very different. So with that, social, I guess, retargeting, we're actually able to expand our targetable base by quite a lot. Then eventually with the reminder, it was a lot more effective to improve the conversion rate. And what we have done on top of all these kind of, I guess, paid retargeting, we have also put up a on-site personalized pop-up to actually highlight, to say, you actually have a pending 10% offer whenever the next time you visit the website, as a reminder. I think here, the guiding methodology we're trying to use is that I think as consumer, we don't want to remember anything and we want everything to be served to us. So it's very important you minimize everything that the consumer needs to do. You literally feed them. And also as a marketer, you need to be very clear that your job is to take care of that buying behavior, the buying journey. You need to provide enough motivation, which is what you are doing from an ad copy and creative. And you also need to deliver a seamless buying experience. One without the other will not work, even though you give the person a very strong motivation to buy from you, but the journey you have designed is extremely troublesome and tedious. You will never see your results getting very good. Hence, you will result in a very high CAC because you feel like you're creative and everything is working. So you are very confident to spend a lot more, but eventually you realize your conversion rate is not great. So that is something you really need to go back to reevaluate your journey. So with that, I think just to share quick results of how did we do this. We actually have 14% increase on the lead to conversion rate, which is, I think this part we have mentioned that we have higher conversion over the people who sign up. And we also have a 60% increase on return on ad spend, means we are getting 6% higher of whatever we invested. With that, we also reduce 10 to 15% of our CAC on average, which then means our NC actually grew quite a lot. And the very good thing is that the top line revenue generated by new customer actually improved. So this is like the results we have. And I would like to summarize what I've mentioned in a quick cheat sheet. You don't need to remember anything I've said earlier, but I think this is probably the most important of everything I mentioned earlier, right? So I think the reason why we actually have done a lot of, so if you see this slide and this slide, you will see that there are just more touch points provided to the consumer to reduce their decision fatigue and to make sure you are serving multiple impressions to them to increase the likelihood of them remembering you and eventually choosing you. So increased touch points is a very good technique to play when it comes to planning your marketing journey. You might not have the luxury to play one with so many, I guess, channel, but even within one channel, if there's a smart way to increase the touch points, you might be able to convert better. With our type of, I guess, setup, we see that more than 60% of customers encounter above 6 touch points before they convert. That essentially means today people visit your site, tomorrow they sign up email, the day after they see an ad, then the last day they probably heard from their friends, then come to the website to convert. So that's the amount of consideration and journey a customer needs to experience before she or he convert. That's why it's so important to make sure you are part of at least some of the touch points. Then also you need to recycle high intent traffic. So this is extremely important to increase your efficiency, hence reduce your CAC, because you can't be, I guess we always debate this internally, right? Like there is this total pool of target audience you have. You can go out and I guess reach out to everybody. But if you continue to just do that, it's going to be super expensive. But if you already have some good intent traffic, for example, people who has already signed up for your newsletter, why not just recycle them with something which is probably free, like email, SMS, which is might be a bit cheaper, to actually make sure you get the deal closed before you move on to the new audience. So you don't actually go out for everybody, then eventually you don't get anyone. The last one I think is also from learnings, right? So with this being mentioned, I think here it's very clear this is the way to go for us, but we have also failed many times to figure out this is the right way. We have done crazy segmentation before, just try to test out what is the right, and then realize actually with a lot of segmentation, it's actually getting more expensive. So that's why there is no, I guess, plan suits for all. You really need to adopt, I guess, this mindset of test quickly and tweak quickly. And also, I think a lot of people might be under the impression that you need to get everything ready before you start. You are waiting for that perfect starting point to actually even to get a bit of data to learn. I think very important, you also have to strike a good balance between a perfect setup versus a ready setup, at least because a perfect setup before you get any data might be a very bad start. So I think, again, right, as I mentioned, like, don't take assumption or hypothesis for the reality, because it might be very different. To be able to iterate fast in this age is very important to get the right learning as well as the right next steps. Yeah, so that's all from me. Would like to get your questions or feedback or anything you would like to share.
Yeah, right. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to go to slido.com or just use the raise hand feature on Zoom. Yeah. So Isabella, we already have several questions. Maybe the first one is from Nito. Nito, do you want to ask your question directly?
So Nito is on fire. He has like 5 questions, and I tried to match him. I asked 6 questions, Nito. So check. And I upvoted every single of my question actually to get a boost. So it's a 1-to-1.
Okay. All right. So I will try to ask some of my questions directly. So I think Isa, you mentioned about the working in silo, right? In marketing, CRM, product, and I'm just curious how do you guys actually try to solve that internally? Like, do you have like certain alignment strategy or working flow to ensure that is minimized throughout your working process? So yeah, that's the first question. I guess I don't know. Should I ask it all together now, or should I just?
Oh no, one at a
one
time. Come on.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's better because I will forget. Yeah. So I think to your first question, I think our setup is a bit special in the sense that I think that's why we look to, I guess, to start this growth team where we actually combine growth marketing and product in the same team. So obviously it's in the same team, so everybody has the same KPI, hence you cannot escape from it. But of course, understand not every company does that. So what is quite helpful that we've done so far is that during business planning of every year, you actually let all the functional team to be part of that BP planning. So let's say when it comes to new customer targets, we actually discuss extensively with brand marketing and also other country team to make sure they are also commit to the same number. So it's kind of like a, it's kind of everybody must go in with all your bets and you can't leave your bets. I mean, you cannot really leave alone. So I think it's not really something, it's a very marketing driven. I think it's something, it's more of a company structure and teamwork that you have to set in place to make sure everybody shares the same sort of targets to begin with. As well as I think very importantly is to involve everybody in the early stage, because I wouldn't want to commit to these targets only when you tell me, okay, this is my target, this is your target, please get it done. I will be more than happy to take it if you ask me, okay, we are thinking about setting these targets for next year. What's your inputs and what are your difficulty? Like, you need to involve them in the early stage so they can give you feedback. As a stakeholder, then you can move on with them eventually. Yeah, I hope that, does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty clear. Thank you.
Okay, and you have.
So next question is from Mateo. Who wins the vote?
Yes.
By the way?
So sorry, I wasn't expecting my questions to go all the way up. Sorry, guys. Should I ask or
Yeah.
will I be disqualified? No, okay.
You can ask your question. Your
So,
first, second question.
yeah, so the question would be, you know, retention is a topic as you highlighted, right? That is a combination, a combined effort of, especially typically of product and marketing and also other functions, right? So purely from a marketing perspective, right? So especially for companies that don't have, you know, huge teams, that don't have a lot of people working and don't have a lot of data. So what would be the first experiment, if you could choose just one experiment to run in with the goal of trying to increase the retention, to improve your CLTV?
Yeah, that's a very hard question, because I don't think I can choose one, but I will choose two. I think there are two experiments that it's actually quite important to run early for you to understand what works for your retention matrix, from my personal experience. I think one is to really test what kind of messaging or content works for retention. So there are a couple of ways to think about what kind of content. One is to show the users, I guess, the strongest bet of your assortment or your content. And you think, if this is the content you already know most of the users like and respond very well, there is a high chance that other lapsing or people who haven't really been engaged with you for very long, they might respond. So from a content play, that's one type of thing to test out.
And when you say, sorry, when you say content, you mean your ads or your on-site content?
I think both works, because it I think the testing itself will be on the content itself. So the channel, I think you can choose whichever channel that you feel more comfortable to run the test, so that you will be able to get the right insights for the channel. Then the other one, I think we test quite a lot, is what's the right timing to send people this message, because I think with different type of business, you have a different inter-purchase cycle. Means when a customer make their first order, how long does this customer take to make their second order in future, or how long does a customer to make two orders? What's like that in between cycle? It's very different from business to business, but if you do a bit of analysis, you should know at least your average and median of that in the cycle, and then you try to set a couple of different duration based on the analysis you derive to test out what's the right time to trigger this message for better retention or better re-engagement. So find that quite effective, because sometimes if you send too early or too late, it's just not going to work. Yeah.
So to summarize, so the timing to when re-engage with the customers that made the first order is something that could have a pretty big impact in
Yes.
your retention.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Thanks.
All right. Do you want to ask your second question?
No. Let's. I don't want to monopolize the discussion. Let's go ahead with the other one.
Okay. So maybe the third question is from Anonymous. The question is, for new business wants to start doing paid channel marketing, will you recommend something to them? So basically, they have no data to begin with and also limited budget.
Yeah, so this is a great question. I think we face a lot of issues like this when we enter a new market, because we have no data, and typically you don't get a lot of budget, because your finance team will not be convinced that you will succeed there. So you wouldn't have the luxury to spend a lot to begin with. I think also one is depends on the business you are in. Typically, Facebook has been quite effective with a small budget versus I think any other channel, for example, like Google and etc. Because on Facebook you have a lot of interest group as well as different type of creative solutions for you to optimize even with a very small budget. And also, since you are a very new business, most of the time it's very hard to showcase to your potential customers only with text ads, which is primarily your search engine, for example, like Google. You might need to showcase a bit of your creative, your content. But obviously, at the end of the day, it also depends on your business, because if you're doing B2B, then maybe Facebook is a bit harder versus like Google, which is a intent-based. So that would be my recommendation. But I think to summarize here, the very important thing is maybe to choose one channel to try and see how the channel works out for you before you move on to another channel, instead of like trying to use every channel at the same time when you just start a new business, because in that case, you also don't know which channel works for you the best. And then in this case, you can also consolidate your limited budget to one channel to really test out instead of splitting it into super small budget. Then you will realize, because you have very insufficient spend, every channel actually doesn't really work for you. Yeah.
Right. So the next question is about your background, basically. So someone is interested with your journey, Isabella. You mentioned that you didn't really have a digital marketing background, right? So how do you convince your first manager when you apply for your job? Or basically your first digital marketing job, yeah?
Yes. Matteo, how did I convince you?
Do I have to answer? Well, I mean, so it wasn't. It wasn't a purely marketing, marketing role, right, in the conventional sense. No, I mean, my case doesn't apply here, right? So
I think
it's more about Zalora, because from the experience you had before you joined Zalora, if I'm not mistaken, to when you joined Zalora, there was a big disconnect, right? So I think that is interesting. How did you basically convince and you got that job?
I think first of all, so with like the I think depends on the. I think for me, I didn't go in with a role which is extremely technical. So for example, if you have no experience and you want to go into performance marketing directly, that's a bit hard, because people will literally give you a case study to ask you do this impression data matrix. How do you derive your NC? If you have not done it from a day-to-day operational perspective, it's very hard for you to come up with any number. So I would say you can start with digital marketing related fields. So for example, like campaigns and etc. So that was my first role in like proper digital marketing. So with that, I actually understand how you plan campaigns and how performance marketing team work, as well as how the CRM team work. So I have exposure to all those things, and then your next role, you can start to apply more technical marketing, or depends on what you like. And then the second thing is, it's quite good if you can also go to, there's a lot of free online resources. Let's say the most common one will be Google AdWords certificate, as well as GA certificate. You can actually go through the training and take the test yourself to get a cert. It's always good to show your employer your interest and your passion by showing them exactly what you've done to beef up your skill sets, rather than just talking. So for me, when I interview people without experience, for example, like fresh graduate, if I've seen they've done these things before, it will give me a very good impression of this person really wants to do performance marketing or marketing. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is maybe from Aloy first, yeah.
Okay. Hello. So my question is, I think retention is a joint effort, right, between marketing and product. Like marketing is the one who's opening the door, and the product comes in and makes some new features to support the brand itself. And during your experience in Love Bonito, how would you usually communicate with your product team to increase the retention? Do you have any say? Do you have any authority on the product team, especially on the marketing side, to such an extent? Do you can, you want this feature to be available to retain a customer, let's say, something like that?
Sorry, what's the last part? It's like you want the feature to be available to customers.
Yes. Do you have any say on the feature development on the product side?
Oh, okay, understand. Okay, so I can share. So I think at LB currently it's a bit special because we also own the product roadmap as a growth team. So actually we have a say in what kind of features to build based on what kind of top line priority in terms of either retention or acquisition we are building. I think in a usual, I guess a more common setup company, I think you typically, if you are from the marketing team, you go through prioritization with product team. Generally, you will send product team your wish list as marketing team. Let's say next quarter, I want a A/B testing tool, or I want a automated segmentation for the website so that I can do retention better. Then product team will then factor into their roadmap. One thing which is very important to help product team have a very clear view of what you want is to give them a bit of this thing called impact sizing. So let's say it can be as simple as you can tell marketing team, today my retention rate is at 5%. If I can improve my retention rate to 7%, it will basically mean I have additional 10K revenue. Let's just say 10K revenue. So that will help them put into perspective of how important this feature is. I think as marketers, we must know that product team, they have basic marketing knowledge, but they wouldn't really know the details of exactly what you are doing and what kind of impact. So you cannot really tell them the details of the journey you want to improve, but you should tell them with this you are doing, what kind of end results you can bring to the table. So that will be extremely critical for them to prioritize your feature versus other people's feature. So since we are running product team, we actually also do that exercise. Because for product team, I receive a lot of different requests from marketing, from ops team, or from any other team. At the end of the day, I need to translate them into something a bit more quantifiable so that I can compare apple to apple. So give me that impact sizing and putting numbers, which will be the best, will help me to decide a lot better. So I guess that will be what on the marketing side, if you want to work with product team very closely, that's, I guess, one step further you can do. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, so to summarize, the growth team actually consists of product and marketing in a joint group, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. It's pretty clear.
Well, so maybe next question is from Matteo again, yeah, because it has 7 people wanting to also know the answer. So okay.
Yeah, so it's a pretty standard one, right? So, but especially relevant for Love Bonito since you started and you have a lot of offline presence, right? So 2 things. So how do you track your offline marketing activities, right? The impact on your e-commerce, and the other way around as well. So how do you track the impact of your online marketing activity on your offline store? And as a third bonus question, if what you're gonna answer can also be done for a very, very smaller shop that, for example, also is selling online, right, or is doing some campaigns online, can they apply what you're about to answer to their shop? That will be the third question.
Yeah, sure. So I think the offline versus the online piece is a very big puzzle for everybody who is running a omni-channel business, because you end up in a lot of fights to say, I am bringing traffic to the store, but I can't prove it. I think for us, we are no exception. This is also the challenge we're facing. I think today, the most common way where you can track online to offline or offline to online is via a loyalty program. When you have customer ID when they transact offline, because online you don't have this issue, you know exactly who is buying, but offline most of the time you don't really know. So if you think in the case of Sephora, where they have a tremendously success loyalty program, that's where how they track how much they spend online and how much they can affect the offline change. So to answer your question is that we actually just launched a loyalty program in Singapore, so we will start to see the impact soon on how does offline and online actually contribute to each other in a very data-driven perspective. So now, I guess the other part, I think, is less, you can't really prove by the number, but you will see offline actually is a free marketing channel for you, because I think before we open stores in Singapore, and versus after we open store in Singapore, we actually see a spike in traffic, and we have not really done anything differently. So one of the hypotheses is that the store really help you attract eyeballs where you were not able to reach in the past via your online advertising. So of course, there might be a bit of cannibalizations because people used to buy online, they might only buy offline now, but I think the greater impact is really on the offline free marketing piece when you have a store, especially when you open a store in a very high traffic place. Then from an online to offline impact perspective, I think this one could be applicable to all the small business is really to leverage on, I think, the inbuilt functions within Google and Facebook. Because today they have spent a lot of money and a lot of research to give you a proxy of how much traffic you actually bring to the store via their own technology on store visits. So that is something for small business, you could have a look to have a sense of how is your online advertising doing, contributing to your store. And then with that, you can actually roughly calculate your store conversion rate, your store revenue from the online advertising spends to the revenue, because you know your normal store conversion rate. And then you will know what's kind of the return on ad spend for offline as well. Of course, you have to take this as a pinch of salt, but it's better to give you a bit of idea than you don't know any idea. But yes, I think for us, it's also not an easy thing, especially when you don't have a loyalty program in place. Yeah.
Right. Did it answer a question, Vito?
Oh, that was me, but yes, it does.
I was just wanting for Nito to ask his question, but wow, I think Kenny is winning now. So Kenny, you may ask your question.
Hi. Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, right, what are the kind of things that you guys have been doing throughout circuit breaker, throughout the coronavirus pandemic to maintain traffic, and or do you guys have like, do you actually have a lot of new customers throughout this period, or what's happening?
Yeah, yeah, this is a great question. I think during, I guess, the whole global pandemic situation, we do see a good traction for e-commerce, but of course, retail/fashion category is not your highest growing category, because I think like the grocery and etc. is growing crazily. So for fashion brand at this period of time, what we do a lot more will be really more on the content marketing side of things. For example, we are hosting virtual workshops, also giving people tips on how to stay at home, or actually invite external speakers to talk to the customers on like different topics. Can be cooking, can be, I guess, any like psychology or mental issue related topics. So because in this period, you actually don't want to be very insensitive of the current climate. You want to be showing your, I guess, attitude to be with the consumer in this difficult period, instead of just being very hard selling. And also from a more paid advertising perspective, it's a bit more neutral for our side. So we will be boosting some of the content marketing stuff. We will still have your BAU sort of assortment, but we will promote the assortment that is more relevant to the consumers. So for example, we curate this stay at home looks page. I mean, from a fashion perspective, essentially it's like casual and comfortable, breathable type of clothes that you can wear at home. And we run advertising for those type of campaign. And also in this period, I think one thing we are quite patient is really on the conversion rate side of things. I think luckily we still have strong conversion rate, but I think just need to take note that it's not you don't have strong conversion rate for granted. You might encounter a very bad conversion rate, but what's more important is to build up, I guess, great engagement in this period, so that when this whole pandemic is over, you can actually harvest the engagement you have built. And even so in this period, we even open up channels like TikTok also for different type of engagement as well. So I think that's like the overarching strategy to prioritize engagement versus direct conversion rate when it comes to campaign planning. Yeah.
All right, great. Wait, quick follow-up question. So have you guys been doing a lot of TikTok stuff as well recently?
Kenny, I was about to make the joke. Do you actually, not the joke, the question, do you guys use TikTok? But I saw that coming. So
Yeah.
Isabella, so Kenny is a completely obsessed with TikTok ads. So you have to know that.
It's a happening thing, right?
Are you using it with Love Bonito? Have you tried?
Yeah, we have a TikTok account now. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't have a TikTok account now? It's the yeah, I think the way they build the content, it's extremely addictive. I've just read I just read an article about TikTok. How do they do recommendation? Why the recommendation is so successful? Actually, it's super interesting. So they actually, when you post a video, they actually don't really care how many followers you have or how many successful high view videos that you have in the past. They don't really care at all. They will serve your video based on different attributes you have, like soundtrack type of content, to a very small group of users that they think might get high engagement. If those group of users actually they get high engagement, they will start to promote this video to a wider group. And if the wider group also respond well, then they will scale up accordingly. And whichever group does not really work, they will reduce the scale. So I think that's why they managed to get everybody so obsessed with it. Yeah.
But Isabella, you didn't answer the question. Did you guys experiment with TikTok ads or not
Oh,
yet?
yes. We just run our first ever TikTok ads actually this week.
Oh,
and
what about it? What the results look like?
So far, I haven't really seen any super clear results in terms of is it working or is it not working. One thing I'm quite cautious about TikTok is that, right, the platform is extremely captive and engaging. It's actually very hard to come up with an ad actually to get the user to click out of the thing, because you are so used to just swipe down. How are you going to click and get out of the thing? So I think that is a very tricky question for TikTok ads. And also depends on your audience, because for us, our customer base is not exactly the extremely young audience. So like your 15 to 20, early 20. But that's like the highest number of TikTok users. So we are still trying to test out if that chemistry work out or not. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
So next will be Amanda.
Yeah. Hello, Isabella. We've been discussing about this for quite a few days now, and I'm curious of your perspective about this. Because customers tend to make many accounts with different emails to chase like first time purchase discounts, right? For example, if you purchase for the first time, then you will get like how many dollars of discount for your first orders. Do you think as a marketer we should take this into our consideration, or just like let it go, because in the calculation it will make different, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the only way to reduce, I mean, there is nothing stopping customer from referring themselves, creating a lot of accounts to get discount, right? The only way to stop this will be if, let's say, your customer is registered by email, you also ask the customer to provide a mobile number, and then you do the two-step verification, right? So means after you sign up, I actually send you an email, ask you to verify your account with us. When you accept, then I give you the incentive. But I think as a marketer, what is more important, you need to decide at this stage of a company, what do you want to optimize? Do you want to optimize for more signups, even though the quality might suffer a bit, but you can clean up later, or you want extremely clean leads so that you reduce the cost? So to answer your question, I think either you want to let it go or you want to just block them. It really depends on your priority at this stage. Yeah.
And also, can I just add? So Amanda, in Singapore, where Isabella is based, the tendency of creating multiple accounts, I guess, for first time discount is not as widespread, right?
I mean, there is still some, and also it depends on, I think, the incentive you are giving, because I think your incentive cannot be too good, because then yes, you will encourage a lot of fake accounts. But if your incentive is like good to try, but also not so good, worth the effort to do so many things, then you should also help that naturally.
But is this not a common problem in Singapore?
It is also. I think, I'm not sure what's the extent in Indonesia, but it is also very common for e-commerce. Yeah. quite common.
Because in Indonesia, there's nothing can stop you from making many accounts, even phone number. You usually we have like 2 phone numbers, or maybe you can borrow your dad's or your mom's. So yeah, it's not a good or effective way to prevent customers from making accounts, right?
Yeah, I think that's why I think two-step verification will be a bit better to control that, so that you have to verify going to the email. So you at least cannot give a fake email or fake phone number. But obviously there will still be cases that, as you mentioned, that can happen. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so next question will be from Nito again. Nito, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah. So I guess, especially because like this past week, the main topic that we've been discussing about is like the customer acquisition cost. So I think probably just like what's your usual like strategy and tactics to decrease the CAC, and let's say like if you were to found your fashion e-commerce of yours, like what are the most important metrics to focus? So yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of reducing CAC, what I typically do is that I guess rather to say reducing, it will be more of to begin with, as long as I have a bit of initial data, I will try to define what's the CAC, I guess, target I want to achieve. So with that number set in place, I will make sure my strategy is flexible around it to get the max results I have. Then the next question you ask is that, how do you know what's the right number to set? I think when you're at a very early stage, you don't know, that's fine, but you should just keep an, but then you will know like a budget that you can spend on a daily or monthly basis, and you use that as a proxy of what's, I guess, a number that you can accept. Typically, you can go a bit higher when you begin with, and then you see the actual data to get the results before you can plan. So I guess to answer your question, we typically use a more of a flip way to design the CAC, and then we try to meet the tag, because I think today how most of the advertising engine works is that they ask you for a CPA, which is essentially your type of CAC number, and you need to know, I guess, what you have to anchor the price before you can even lower it. So I think that's a very important step one. And then step two to improve CAC is really what I've mentioned, to recycle your high intent traffic, because I think once you start to run your advertising for a while, you actually realize you bring, I guess, a lot of traffic, your conversion rate is probably only like 2-3%. Then actually the rest of the 97% traffic is called unused. Of course, you reduce a bit of traffic for those that they will never convert. You still will leave with like 20% of traffic that you can recycle, either via email or via ads retargeting to people who have visited your site but never convert. So I think to design that retargeting piece is very important to reduce your CAC eventually.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So next question is from Anonymous. Maybe I'll read the question. So let's say there is an SME fashion business that just moved from an offline store to an online store. Which one should which strategy should they prioritize first? Acquiring new customers or creating a retention strategy?
Yeah. Okay, so because I don't, okay, so for this question, I'm gonna assume that from offline to online, currently you don't have any online database, you just moved into online and you are 100% new, starting from scratch. I think first of all, when you are very new to online, you don't think about retention strategy too much, because you have no one to do retention to begin with. And to do retention most of the time is also very tedious, and in terms of your limited bandwidth. So would recommend just really focusing on acquisition first when you have a sizable database, and then you start to do basic retention flow. Yeah. So I guess the question, yes, I think that's the question, right, if I understand correctly. I think in terms of online acquisition will be quite similar to the earlier question we've answered. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Okay, the next question is maybe from Mateo again. Mateo, do you want to ask the question directly?
Silakan. Really.
Okay, so what is the size of marketing team in Love Bonito now? Who's doing what? And could you give us also an overview in terms of the regional versus local teams?
Yeah, sure. So I think for us, our structure is a bit special again, since we have two parts. So one is the brand marketing team, which is one is the growth team. Growth team is basically, I've mentioned that is the center of excellence model where we cover performance marketing across all different markets. For brand marketing side, yes. So we have a regional brand marketing team. They are kind of your content hub and also campaigns hub. So they have one part which they run campaigns, they design all the campaign strategy, as well as the messaging for all our hero campaigns. And then they also have social media and community who does, as I guess, quite straightforward in the name, that's community events as well as digital social media like Instagram, etc. Then also, I guess, a bit of PR and CopCon on the side as well. Then usually we will mimic a mini brand marketing team in local setup. So in local countries, usually you still have someone doing campaign because you will have around 20% plus layers of localization content in the local team. And also the local team will run a lot more on partnerships, let's say working with other business partners to co-create marketing strategy. So that's like our structure at the moment.
Okay. All right, next question is from Amanda. Ya, boleh langsung tanya aja.
Isn't this answered already?
Oh ya. Alright,
Which
tadi
one?
beda ya? Sama ya sama yang tadi. Yang ini belum sih.
Oh, this one, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your opinion, which one is more important, especially for Love Bonito? Because you obviously have to provide like unique marketing strategies or promotion, but which is more important, creating that or choosing the right edge channel? Which one should we focus more?
Yeah, I would say it's actually of different focus, but I think in terms of foundational, I guess, setup, I think first of all, the campaigns is very, very important because which is the right campaign and the right content angle will help you also save a lot of spends on performance marketing side with that right messaging. So for us, that campaign angle is the most important and is the most foundational piece to begin with. Performance marketing is really more of an amplifier. So imagine you have this campaign, you need to broadcast on different channel, and how to broadcast to the right people with the right messaging. That's where performance marketing come into play most effectively. Yeah.
Okay, amplifier is a good word. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So next question is from Andrew.
Hello. Thank you for your sharing. I just want to ask, because in the fashion industry, it's very competitive and the product is very widely sold by other competitors. And how do you care? How do you make your customer care about your product? Like they want to give you feedback and they want to stay update about your products, and how do you process that feedbacks, and how do you especially I mean, how you collaborate with your customers is?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a really, really good question. I think for us, right, I think customer, especially for Love Bonito, customer is at the heart of everything we do. How we have come through so long, like in the past 10 years, is really because of customers' feedback. So for us, we actually actively taking in customer feedback via, I think, your normal feedback channel like customer care email, social media message, and we also run occasionally customer user focus group where we really sit down with customer to understand why do they like about us, what do they not like about us, what do they like about us when they shop online, or what do they not like about us when they shop online. So that's how we consolidate and get their feedback. And I think to your earlier part of the question, yes, definitely fashion industry is extremely competitive, especially if you look at Indonesia's landscape. You have a lot of local players nowadays, and you also have a lot of overseas players selling via Lazada, Shopee, and etc. To develop a unique voice of your brand, and branding is very important. So for us, we stand for, I guess, all the women out there, as well as we want women to actually dress well and dress right, to be the best version of themselves. So that's kind of a story angle that it resonates very well with our customers. So I think as a fashion brand, I think you need to also find what's the right angle that resonate well with the customers. And when you find that angle and find that niche, I think that's how you can compete with other brands, because you also don't want to end up in a way that you can only compete to any other brands because of sale or whatever. So to develop that unique voice and niche will be very important, and you need to start early on that.
Okay, thank you. So you, yes.
Ya, lanjut aja, Andrew.
Ada lagi yang
Yeah, udah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. All right. So next question is from Amalia. It's basically related to the week's topic. So she's asking, what is the most, what is the key metric that matter the most for growing and innovating your business in Love Bonito?
So, Isabella, just for some context, right? So this week, so we look at, we look at CAC, we look at CLTV, we look at the ratio of them, we look at cost over revenue, we look at CPO, and the overall message was, it also depends on the data you have available, right? And how costly and how easy it is to get that data, right? Because most of those metrics are very well correlated, among each others, right? So this is the context of where I guess the question is coming from.
Understand. I think for us, it also depends on the markets. So for example, in Singapore, where we are most predominantly in, for us, actually, the top line revenue as well as retention of the customers are very important for the business to grow. Whereas in other markets, you always will begin with revenue, which is, I guess that's like everything. Then we will break down into contribution from the new customers and then the existing customers. But for new markets, new customer will be the most critical. So we will look at total new customer acquired, and then total, and with that you will break down into total traffic that you need to attract. So it's kind of like a pyramid starting from revenue, and then you break down one layer deeper to the previous metric you have to achieve. And then on the side, I guess you will have what I think you've learned this week in terms of CAC and efficiency to make sure you can work with the right sort of budget that you have on hand. Yeah.
Okay, I hope it answered your question. Yeah, Mel. Okay, next, maybe we will have Chris first to ask his question. Hi, Chris. Hello, Chris, are you here? If not, then maybe I will.
Yes, I'm here. So I'm asking questions. So just hold on. Let me go back to the Slido.
This you can see it on the screen.
Oh. Okay. So I just want to know what kind of steps or action you take to measure the performance purely from the marketing perspective, because sometimes for the growth company, that's very common. You have many different programs, budget, resources. Yeah, so that may also have a direct impact with the marketing activities. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a hard question. I think on the one side, definitely when it comes to the overall growth of a company, marketing alone or growth marketing alone is not enough. Usually you actually, as a marketer, you should leverage on other stuff to make sure that you grow at the same time. So actually what we do is that, let's say for a new market, if we want to seed influencers very aggressively this month, I'm actually ramping up performance marketing spends for this month, because when influencers starts to post a lot to generate top line awareness, when I run an ad, the likelihood of people convert is a lot higher. So instead of competing on how to measure, we actually leverage on that a lot more. But to your question, how do we measure it? I think there's probably no like a very, very comprehensive way to measure, but what we really need to measure, what we do is actually via a control group to take out performance marketing from that group and see what kind of results we will get. Obviously, to design the experiment, it's not the easiest thing to do, but you will actually see the results of the uplift with and without quite clear if you can run that exercise perhaps once a year, because it's not really something you can run on a day-to-day basis. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, indeed, it's answering. Thank you.
Riri, can I jump in to ask to ask a couple of questions, non-specific technical marketing related, but more about so how you're looking at basically at hiring, right? And specifically for Indonesia, right? So how's the team structure there? We have a couple, actually. One specific student is a huge fan. She was commenting on the chat, huge fan of Love Bonito, and she was sharing the Love Bonito career link to everyone without that being planned or anything. So can you share a little bit about both what you are looking at Love Bonito for any people in the teams that you oversee, right? The skills you're looking, especially at the junior level, and specifically for Indonesia, how you're looking at the market in this COVID-19 world. Are you still growing? Are you still hiring? If you can share a little bit about that. Yeah, sure. Because today I think Indonesia, we have the local team, so the country does the hiring most of the time. We will chip in more from the evaluation from technical skill sets sort of view. I'm sure if you have the career page, I think you can check out the career page, probably will know better than me. But yes, in terms of how do we evaluate, I think personally, especially for junior level, I actually don't really care if you have marketing experience or not. That's not the priority of what I'm evaluating. I think there are a couple of areas I will be evaluating. I think first of all is, are you actually really passionate about digital marketing to begin with? Like if I ask you a couple of questions, do you rate, or what do you know about like the recent, give me an example of a recent sort of a marketing related news that you have heard about, or anything you've noticed. I think you need to be able to give me I guess an example. That's how it shows your, I guess, your passion about marketing. Because I think at junior level, it's not about how skillful or how experienced you are. It's really about you have the interest and the grit to grow your career. And then the second thing is actually more on logical thinking. I think we typically will do that via a case study, ask you some questions and see how do you do logical solving. And also in interviews, we'll ask you what's like the biggest challenge you've ever faced and what did you do about it. And another thing, like I think some people like to ask, but some people actually don't like this question, is that probably ask you what's like the biggest mistake you've ever made. With that question, you will be able to tell if someone actually actively reflecting themselves versus someone who doesn't. There's a very big difference. So would like to get your views on that. And then the last one will be, if, I guess it depends on the role in marketing, right? If it's digital marketing, would want to understand how proficient you are with data. This data does not need to be performance marketing related data. Do you have some basic Excel skills? Can you draw some conclusion when you are given a small to medium data set? That's usually we've done that via case study. Then other than that, I think we go back to point one, which is how passionate are you about marketing? I think that's
what supports you to grow, because I think marketing jobs from outside, it seems to be a bit fancy, you know, like you talk about this, that, numbers and etc. But day-to-day work can be really, really tedious. So if you don't have the passion and the great, you probably will find the job very different from what you are expecting. Hence, you will not be happy. Especially when you're junior, you should, I mean, yes, the job itself should be challenging, but you should enjoy the challenge rather than force yourself to go to work every day. That's also not the right fit for you and also not the right fit for the team.
All right. Okay, next question maybe from Riza first. It is still related to this week's topic, which is about CLTV and CAC. Riza, do you want to ask your question early?
Okay, thank you. Based on your experience, how do you make CLTV effective and CAC on Love Bonito? What method on you usually use, and what the hard part when you implement the method you going to make CLTV? Thank you.
Okay, sorry, to clarify, your question is how do we improve CLTV, right?
More effective than CAC, and what the method you usually use?
The ratio between the two, basically.
Oh, okay, understand. I think for us, I think one thing we try to understand with the business skills is that to see what's the preferred of channel that the customers most likely to convert, especially when it comes to increase this ratio, right? So basically on the two sides of the part is that either you increase the spend a customer is gonna make, or you decrease the CAC when you acquire them, so then the eventual results will be better. So we try to do from the more reducing CAC perspective. If a customer can be acquired via organic channel, we try not to layer too many ads on top of it to reduce our cost. So that is kind of like a guiding principle to begin with. Increase the customer lifetime spend, what we do is really on the retention side of things, which is what I think we've mentioned earlier, to test what's the right time to trigger the email, what's the right offer / content to engage them. As well as I think that's why we recently launched loyalty program in Singapore, and also we launched loyalty program in other markets. In the time to come is to make sure that people actually gain rewards with us when they shop. So eventually they want to accumulate their rewards with you. Yeah, so that would be how we are trying to manipulate on that. Yeah.
Right, clear enough, Riza?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Still related to the week topic, which is about metrics for acquisition and such. Andrew, do you want to ask your question directly?
Yeah, it's about our lecture and our assignments. What is the payback period in your business right now, and what's the most impactful metrics that working to achieve the target for the payback period? Is it you increase your order, your margin, or you try to increase the lifespan of your customer, or even you try to decrease your cost for advertising?
Decrease your cost.
Yeah. I think, okay, so I think in reality, right, it's very hard to reduce cost in terms of like the item, right? So I can't really share like the specific number for us, but I think there's some industry benchmark around there. Your payback is usually ranges from 3 to 12 months. It really depends on what type of products you sell.
That's a big range. Come on.
Yeah, it's a very big range. It's
3 months to 3 years.
No, 3 to 12 months.
No, I know. I'm kidding. Okay.
But I think I guess also depends on, I think usually when it comes to this kind of thing, right? Like it's also when you set your own strategy, you want to define your payback period and working backwards of how much you want to pay to acquire, because you know your cost of goods and you know your projected revenue. So it's actually very important to refine the payback period before you do it, instead of just, you know, like let it run and see how many payback period is. You might be run in your initial definition of payback period. Let's say I just want 6 months, but the reality realize it has to be 8 months. Let it be. I think you have to set a benchmark for yourself to begin with. Yeah.
And what's the metrics like? You try to increase your margin or you decrease your cost?
I think margin is not, I think for us, right, I think, yeah, that's why it depends on the business, because for us, it's not like we have a lot of play on the margin, right? Because you produce the goods and the goods was produced 3 months ago or 6 months ago, right? So you can't really do that at the time that you're trying to sell. So I think decrease cost will be the easier way to do so when it comes to marketing, because that one is flexible. And what we usually do is to make sure you don't tie marketing spend to a specific absolute number, is you tie it with a percentage that you think you will be able to maintain. So with that, no matter your business is doing well or doing bad, your cost is kind of controlled with the top line revenue you're trying to generate. So that's quite effective to control that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's already 8:31. So maybe one last question. I will choose Nito's. No, so Nito, maybe last question from you.
Yeah. From my end, probably more on like the tools. What sort of tools like do you mainly use, and as a company, what's usually your consideration points on choosing like the tools that you and your team will use?
Yeah. So yes, I will market our our Medium article. You can read a bit more, which we introduced extensively on Google Optimize. I think that's like kind of our, not to say favorite tool, because I think it's just a super useful tool to run any on-site related A/B testing. It's the main reason is because it's free. So that to any new business that you can just start with a free version, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. If you want to shift a text box from right hand to left hand side, you can just easily shift without doing any coding. Or you want to change color, and you want to schedule a lot of different variants. The best part of that is that if you're also using Google Analytics, you don't need to set up any reports yourself. It directly automatically links to Google Analytics and gives you results. Also putting into place like your standard deviation, your confidence level, so you actually don't really need to do any stat stuff, because most people won't be familiar, and then it will tell you the winner. So that's why we really like it. I think other A/B testing tool you should be able to find is that there are typically two sets of A/B testing. One is your on-site A/B testing. The other one is actually within ad channel A/B testing, right? So on-site A/B testing, you also have like things like Optimizely. It's a different tool. They have the similar name, but they are different. And a couple of other things when you search online. With ad channel, actually, you can run those by native Google or Facebook tool, or if you have a third-party tool, for example, nowadays, a lot of people use smartlead.io or any other Facebook partner or Google partner, they should also have A/B testing capability. Yeah, so does that answer your question? Okay, another thing is tips to choose A/B testing. I think, again, it depends on what do you really want to test at this point of time. Do you want to test more on-site or ad channel, or yeah, then also depends on what's your in-house capability. Like, do you have a tech team or to help you to set up? If you use a very robust tool, usually the robust tool, actually you have to do a bit of coding. Do you have the capability? If you can't do it, then maybe use a more scaled down version tool, but you can do it yourself. So would consider from an objective perspective as a operational perspective to choose the right tool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess it's already 8:34. So thank you, Isabella, for sharing with us in the expert sharing session tonight. Thank you also for all of you guys who already participated and also joined the session. Please leave your feedback on lecture Slack in the lectures channel. We'll basically share that feedback to Isabella tomorrow after you already submit it. And oh yeah, don't forget tomorrow we will have a review session and also feedback session. I will also tell you guys more about the group project. So make sure to join on time tomorrow. And Isabella, do you have any last thing to say to the crowd?
Final statement.
No, I think just want to say thanks for having me, and I hope I have give you maybe 1-2 line useful advice. And I mean, I'm very surprised by, I guess you guys are really passionate about marketing and you have a lot of great questions. Yeah, hope to connect with you in future if there's any good chance. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a few people that you hopefully you might connect in the near future.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Isabella. Thank you so much for sharing, for sharing everything, and best of luck with Love Bonito, and everyone else. Then we'll see each other tomorrow.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.